like Super Hog is getting cooked up for dinner. One, two, three. Dynamite Dan is our winner.
Welcome in, Kuma Crew. I am, as always, Annakuma, and we are here today to talk about Crashable Studios' newest game, Wildwood Down. When I played the demo for Wildwood Down a few Next Fests ago, I was astonished at the story of how this game came to be. I loved the fact that a group of friends decided to make a game for one of their friends, and then put him in as the main character as well. It was heartwarming, and the game itself was humorous and well thought out. It took the very beginning of the game, let you go through the tutorial and first puzzle, and introduced what you could expect going forward in the game. Now, there were a few games that I was looking forward to in the last 2 years. Prim, The Drifter, An English Haunting, and both Rosewater and Old Skies. Wildwood Down was pretty much at the top of this list ever since I played the demo. So far, only Prim has really let me down, and even then, it wasn't by much. So, could Wildwood Down join them and the absolute tsunami of impressive, fun, and well put together point and clicks that have arrived on the scene in the last 2 or 3 years? We'll have to see. So, we play as Daniel. We start the game with this wonderful cutscene, which I'm just gonna let you all enjoy.
I gotcha. Let's try. Not today, Junior.
In the demo video, I compared it to when the Page Master tells the kid about the wonders of the library and the Page Master, and I stick to that. I was always a kid that loved fantasy and reading. I really was into my books. My mum used to say I was Matilda because I taught myself how to read, apparently. I loved making things up in a fantasy setting, and the Page Master, along with, I guess, the never-ending story, had a great impact on who I became as an adult, if you couldn't guess. This speech lives rent-free in my head because it reminds you of just how much you can gain from reading a book. Wildwood Down's intro probably shouldn't be looked into it as deeply as that. I know I'm looking way too deep into it because it reminded me of something from my childhood, but right from the start, Crashable Studios lets you know what you're expecting from this game. They want to give you an adventure. They want you to have fun. They're going to throw in some horror and some mystery. They know you, as an adventure game fan, want stories that touch on just about anything and everything they can throw at you. So, Wildwood Down promises a lot right from the start. We get into the game and we get into the opening section. Daniel and his sister Becca are on their way to Wildwood Down for senior week. With us is Dakota, a friend, and Josh, a very terrible boyfriend, bringing shame to all Joshes everywhere. Oh, and it's also Becca's birthday, which isn't really touched upon too often in the game anyway. Plus, Daniel always has his friendly conscience with him in his head at all times.
Daniel, this is your conscience. Do not throw it out the window.
Whilst driving to Wildwood, you get introduced to the controls of the game, the inventory, and some of the humor we're about to get. We finished the demo itself after finding Dakota's hand buried in the sand, and overhearing a plot to kill more people.
Another one bites the sand.
If you hadn't missed earlier, he'd be number 2 today.
Yeah, blame me. Your plan was too soft.
Anyway, we must look forward. The girl is next.
Yeah, the girl. You'll never see it coming.
So the full game continues on this theme. We not only have to save Becca, our sister, but the other seniors as well, and very much ourselves as we dive way too deep into a conspiracy or two. Now, much like most of my reviews on this channel, I'm not going to go too much into the story, that's about it, because I do believe this game should be experienced for itself. The only time I give away stories is either in my retrospectives, my perspectives, or when I think the game isn't worth your time. But Wildwood Down is 100% worth your time, and therefore, I won't say anything else. I genuinely loved the story and felt it was the biggest plus to this game. It has a lot of twists and turns, and it's easy to follow along with. I quite liked all of the reveals that happen within the game, and even when you are sidetracked for long periods, the game always has this way to remind you that whilst yes, you have to do this thing right now, the reason you're doing this random thing is because you have to do it to save everyone, because everyone's in trouble. They also did pretty well to fit in most of the adventure types they wanted to as well. It is, overall, a murder mystery. Plenty of people even die within the story itself. It's not just Dakota at the beach at the beginning. They are not afraid to kill off random characters, or a couple characters, and one of these deaths are even extremely silly, but so sad at the same time. Which brings us to the comedy aspect. It is a great comedy game. They have really well-timed jokes, and they never stick to one thing for too long. Daniel delivers some belters, and the cast around him react really well to just about anything.
Looks like we're in some kind of aquarium loading bay. Good luck out there.
Good luck. Won't you come in?
I'm gonna sit this one out. I think I'll spend a little more time with Miss Wildwood.
Damn you. Cut us.
If we need to talk, I'll call you on the shortwave radio. Good luck.
It's an adventure filled with a lot of action and even some wrestling. And while story-wise this is all fine, I do feel the last third of the game did suffer from too many ideas and not necessarily them picking the ones that really needed to be kept in. But I'll get to that in a second. As a story, it knew what it wanted to be. It was very direct to the point and kept focus really well. And I talk about this a lot now because I'm still in the middle of working on a review for 3 Minutes to Midnight, which was a mess of a story and a mess of a game. So I really truly do just love to see games that know what they want with their story and then just go and do it.
I do not like you.
The feeling's mutual.
Wildwood did so much in such a short amount of time. It took me roughly about 14 hours to finish the game, and I even had to replay the middle section in that 14 hours. I'd muted my VOD on Twitch because I'm an idiot. Well, I'm not an idiot, it's Kingdom Hearts' fault. But I'd muted that VOD, so I wanted to make sure that I had a VOD that had sound because the voice acting is great, and I love Daniel. So I replayed it. It took an extra 2 hours, I guess, so I would have finished this game in about 12 hours. You'll go from mysteries on the Boardwalk to more horror-esque moments in a lighthouse, and then back to just wandering around before an explosive finale, yet it all just makes sense and fits. They use the world around them and the location that they're set in to great effect to give such different moments within the game, yet they're always hyper-focused on the task at hand, which is to save the day, of course. But how does it play? Actually, it plays fantastically. Wildwood uses 2D pixel sprites on a 3D plane. This is quite funny because sometimes you'll have things like Daniel sitting in a chair, and because he's a flat pixel character, he's just flat on the chair. It's very funny. I love this. Daniel himself can be moved around by either clicking like a normal point and click, or indeed using the WASD keys. It gives the world so much more life to it. People are out and about walking on the boardwalk, and you can walk amongst them. There's a tram that moves around that you can walk in front of. Its style was a great blend done very well. Daniel moves really well around the maps as well. There are no hidden walls or bumps that you'll get stuck on or get annoyed by. Even in the maze section, it's easy to navigate Daniel himself through it. Well, almost nothing will get annoying. We'll get to the bad bit in a minute. As a point and click, it is really standard. You point and click, everything is basically on the left button. The inventory is this lovely goodie box in the corner. You click it and it expands a little. The goodie box is also there in the main intro. That's really fun.
I gotcha. Let's try.
You don't really need it bigger than it is, and the hitboxes on all the items is well done. It's really easy to move things around and use them in the inventory as well. Again, it sounds silly, but I'm also in the middle of going back to It's Grim Up North with their free Chapter 2 update, and you'll be amazed at how often I have to fight items in the inventory to be picked up. Or maybe you won't be surprised if you watch my review of the first chapter, but I'll get to reviewing that in due course. I say it often now in my reviews, and I'll continue to say it. Whilst I love when a game does something fancy, whether it be death loops, which are extremely popular this year, different ways of solving puzzles, multiple options to solve things, or whatever the gimmick might be, it is so nice when a game just does things well. All the games I've loved this year or last year, whether they have a gimmick or not, have never tried to overcomplicate puzzles or the inventories or anything else. Any game that tried to be fancy has kind of failed to impress me. Wildwood didn't try to do anything fancy, but it did everything it did really well. If anything, Wildwood's big gimmick was that it tested you on so many different fronts. So, we're here. The big positive and the big negative of Wildwood Down are the puzzles and how they are crafted. There are plenty of inventory item-based puzzles, which are all very well crafted and based on simple, grounded logic. But there are just so many different styles of puzzles, I don't even know where to begin. You have more logic-based puzzles, you have environmental-based puzzles. Sometimes you have to watch TVs to figure out things that have been recorded on them. There is a whole Hall of Mirrors labyrinth section, which was really good and well thought out. We have an arcade full of games you can actually play, and to a point have to progress the story. And then there are the stealth sections and the wrestling. Now, to be fair, the stealth sections can't be skipped if you want to. The first of them comes halfway through the game, and is a very well done homage to the Metal Gear Solid series. Your conscience is too busy oogling Miss Wildwood to join you, so he stays behind and radios in.
Daniel, come in, Daniel. Can you read me?
Hi, conscience.
Okay, good. Comms are up.
It's a great section, and to be fair on it, this one was easy enough to figure out. Then you have the second stealth section at the end of the game. It's the penultimate big puzzle before the end of the game, and, well, it sucked. In fact, I think the creators kind of knew it sucked, because before you even try this puzzle, the game lets you know that there is an auto skip in the room you start in, which is not even the room the puzzle starts in, and that no story is actually tied to this at all, so you can skip it if you don't like this part of the game. Me, being the Chad puzzle gamer I am, went ahead and did it, and boy, did I hate it. So suddenly you have camera control, so if you stop Daniel at any given moment and press left or right, the camera will swing around instead of moving him. In the first room, it's all fine, when you realize you have hiding spots. Yeah, you can get through the first one quite easy. The second room is also quite good, but it's still a little frustrating, but it's manageable. Then, you get to the third and last room. My god, what was this room, guys? Who hurt you so badly you needed this room in this game? Malta, the guy trying to find Daniel, doesn't seem to have a roaming pattern that I can tell. You have no stealth mechanics other than hiding in one locker in the room, but he just kind of moves around randomly. He'll also seemingly speed up at the slightest hint that you are somewhere close by, and he's always making a beeline to you by the looks of it. Not only that, because the camera is being swung around by you trying to find things, you don't always have him on camera to see where he is anyway, so he can easily sneak up on you because he's so fast. You don't even get a chance to figure out how the mechanics of this puzzle have changed in the third room before being caught by him for the first time. Because in this room, and only this room, you have to press these green buttons that spawn on different locations around this room, which means swinging the camera around wildly to find them before you can do anything. You have to press them to open this door to get to the generator in the first place. Hell, when I did do that, and it took me a while to even figure out there were green buttons around, when I did do that, I sat in a locker for a few minutes watching Malta just walk in front of the door. I was lucky to actually get past him because it did not look like the game had any commands for him to stay away from the door after opening it. I guess the big thing would have to be, because he just kind of makes a beeline to you, you'd have to move him around yourself. But he's so fast, you'll probably end up being caught anyway. I got lucky. He doesn't interrupt you on the generator, and after the generator is done, it goes to a cutscene. But, dude, it was not fun. I said it on stream, and I'll say it here. If you are aware that a part of your game might be frustrating enough that the majority of people who play it will want to skip it, maybe don't put it in the game at all. Okay, editing bay here. So I want to say I was a little wrong on this section. I'm keeping it in, and I'm just going to put in that I was wrong because I'm no wimp to say I was wrong. I still stand by what I said, but first up, it wasn't right away that you get the "you can skip this puzzle" warning. You do have to go and get caught at least one time before it shows up, but I still feel it shows a lack of confidence in the area they made, and whether or not it would sit right with the players at this part of the game. Secondly, the mechanics behind the 3 rooms do actually change. I actually finished this game on a Wednesday, wrote the script on a Thursday, and recorded and started to put the video together on a Friday. So it wasn't really that long between playing the end of the game and putting my thoughts down. Yet, I feel I've already started to block out this area in particular for how annoying it was. So, in the first room, you do have a button puzzle as well, but it's one of those press the buttons till all the lights turn on deals, and it is set on one of the computers. I'm also, and always have been, aware that I didn't notice the green button going into the first room to begin with. They do put the first green button right in front of you, but it's not necessarily going to be something you're paying attention to. Maybe if I had realized that it was a green button and that the buttons were going to be important before running off to find hiding spots, I wouldn't have struggled, but I genuinely ran into this room, so mortar, walking around as always. I was already thinking about hiding spots that even though the green light was in my face, it meant nothing to me till I found it later on. As I said, I still stand by what I said, but I didn't give a fair assessment of what was happening. I'm sure others will play the game and feel differently, it's a personal thing. I just really didn't like this room in particular. Malta is still too fast, far too unpredictable, and the movement isn't well enough done for this to be a good section. The final room's puzzle, being click on random green lights, isn't a great puzzle. It's not really shown to you other than having a green button in your face. And it's definitely not a great puzzle in a room with a character that is just beelining to you constantly. But I was wrong in how I presented this area. Now back to repressing the memories of this area, I guess. The changing of mechanics without warning is also one of my biggest pet peeves about the wrestling as well. Now, the wrestling is one of the things that are properly explained to us, and boy was I excited. I've been a wrestling fan since I was a cub, and I was ready to do the wrestling. You can tell what move you need to make down will do by watching the arms of the characters. If they raise their arms above their head more, then they do a middle or low pose, you hit them on high. If they have their arms in the middle more often, then you hit them in the middle. And again, if they're always going to the floor, then you know that's a low attack. It's easy to follow. It does get harder to different degrees. Someone might be faster, for example, and this guy just brings out his harpoon at the end of the timer, and you have to figure out how he's holding it, whether it's high, middle, or low. Then you have this guy who talks about cars, and you're just gonna have to either know what it is about cars that make them high, middle, or low, or brute force it like I did. The wrestling I don't think is skippable, and this extreme change in the mechanics was unneeded and not fun. I have a whole page of notes on the wrestling, and the junkyard guy got his own section at the bottom, because boy howdy was it not fun to figure out. Hell, I even had backseaters trying to backseat me through it, and they still didn't know what was going on, and my backseaters ruined most games for me. The really sad thing is after you fight the junkyard guy, you fight the hag, whose whole thing, spoilers I guess, is that when she giggles, you do the opposite of what she's done. She'll always either be high or low, so if she's giggling and she's done a lot of highs, you have to go low. But if she doesn't giggle and she's done a lot of lows, then you still gotta go low. It's a very good use of the mechanic. Even the final guy was changed, and whilst again it was a little bit on the weird side to figure out, it's very easily spelled out to you. Junkyard really ruined that experience, and I did feel the wrestling was already dragging a little anyway, as a lot of the moments in the wrestling were unskippable. If John Guard hadn't been there, or if the clue was in the words and not having to understand anything about cars, it would have been fine. But as it was, I genuinely had to brute force it and hope for luck. I think I get it's meant to be big cars, medium cars, and small cars, but you can't rely on people caring enough about cars to get that. So, personally, the majority of this game, as a puzzle game, is a 10 out of 10. These two sections in particular drop it to an 8. That's still extremely high, and I don't blame them for doing these things either. I don't think they were wrong to put it in the game. I personally didn't like them. I think the final room of the stealth section needed to be better done, but I could have always skipped it if I got really stuck. You might hear me complain, but then play it for yourself and easy clap it, as the kids used to say. It might be down to more of a personal preference, but I understand they wanted to put a lot of things into the game because it was a homage to their friendship with Daniel and how they grew up as gamers, and they did it so well. It just sucked that the final room of the stealth section was so annoying, and the wrestling got on my nerves. I genuinely did like that the team tried lots of different things. I loved swinging the cage with Daniel and Twister Man. I loved the Metal Gear reference, even though I've never really played more than a demo of Metal Gear Solid when I was a kid. I loved all the logic puzzles and wandering around the Hall of Mirrors, and I loved nearly everything about the wrestling. But I have to be fair, I loved this game, but these two parts really sucked, and kind of ruined the last part of the game, which is a shame. Or no, it didn't ruin anything. I'm being over the top there, I'm being dramatic. My community, or at least Shin, calls me Pedramington because I am very dramatic. It was just frustrating, and it frustrated me enough that going into the final puzzle, which is a banger of a puzzle and you'll love it, I was absolutely done. It didn't ruin the ending. The story is still fantastic and the final puzzle is really, really well put together, but it did make the final third of the game kind of the weakest part, and it did feel drawn out. But overall, the positives really outweigh the negatives in this game. It is a clean experience. They use their 3D plane well to give you more dynamic shots, like watching a show or a film. It also makes some puzzles more fun as the camera swings itself around for a different angle. Not the stealth section. No, but this bit when you're using the slingshot and you're looking up, this was cool. Stealth section, no.
What a shot!
The characters aren't annoying, even though they very much had the potential to be so. Daniel and his friends are very normal, if a little bit of a dick when it comes to Josh, but the others, they're all very stereotypical, but they played them off well. No joke overstayed its welcome, no plot point was forced down your throat. Daniel was a delight. References were kept to short mentions in dialogue, and it was just silly enough and just serious enough that it kept you on the edge of your seat the entire time, whilst making you laugh. There's always a great chance that you'll overhype a game, and it just couldn't live up to that hype. Prim has been my biggest victim to this. Thankfully, nearly every other game has been more than I could ever expect, and Wildwood Down is no exception. Sadly, The Drifter probably will be my game of 2025, but Wildwood Down gave it a run for its money. It's right up there, it's such a good game. If you feel like classic point-and-click gameplay with decent logic, a very Scooby-Doo feeling plot with wonderful characters, a unique setting, and some wonderful art, then Wildwood Down is 100% a must, and if you are interested, then the link to the game page is down in the description below. That is all I have time for today, though. I really enjoyed Wildwood Down, and it will be a game that later on I probably will find time to make a much longer video on, but seeing I'm struggling to get my button gear and do the reviews I'm meant to be doing, that'll have to wait for a bit. If you would like to continue to support this bear here, though, please feel free to leave a like, comment below on your favorite pizza, and subscribe. I do also now have a Patreon. I've mentioned it once in a video, and the moment that video came out, the page got restricted for some strange reason, so I haven't done anything to it. But it is now back up, and it is an easy way to support me as I try my best to continue with my career path and get my life back together and back on track. Various disabilities allowing. My main job is over on Twitch though, and if you'd like to see more of me, give me a follow over on twitch.tv/Annakuma. I also have a VOD channel that is super out of date and where all the VODs went, and that will also be linked in the description below from now on. With that all said, thank you for watching as always, and bye-bye.